Hi guys, it is Aoife from Fred Weasley Died Laughing, and I'm here with my weekly wrap up, which is also basically my Time Hopathon wrap up, as the Time Hopathon was on this week. And my vlog for that will be coming up in the next couple of days. I had a really good time vlogging it, so I hope you guys enjoy that vlog as well. The first book I read this week was one I got from NetGalley, and I was so excited when I got approved for this because I've heard a little bit of buzz about it, and it was The Toymakers by Robert Dinsdale, and this was just such a magical book. This is a book basically set in kind of from the early 1900s on, and it is about this special toy shop in the middle of London. It's called Papa Jack's Toy Emporium, or Papa Jack's Emporium, and it is set based around this one girl who goes to this emporium. So when this girl called Kathy, she's basically kind of running away from something, and she needs basically a place of refuge, and she ends up finding out about this emporium, and she runs away to there, and she basically stays there for the rest of her life almost. And it is just about the family that run this emporium, the father who is able to create these magical toys. And when I say magical toys, they're actually like magical toys. It's very much what you'd almost picture like Santa's workshop being like, just some of the creations that are described. And they also follow his sons Casper and Emil, who are also trying to follow in their father's footsteps, and they're also kind of almost in a constant competition with each other about who can create the most magical toys. And there's a little bit of like brotherly rivalry and jealousy there as well. And Kathy kind of steps into this, and she ends up kind of becoming part of the family and becoming a really, really important part of the family as well. And as I said, this is just so magical. This is one of those places that you would just love to be real, because it was just so beautiful, and the descriptions are so vivid and so like, I don't know, I can't even describe it. It's just wonderful and beautiful and magical, and it's one of those things that it does remind you of when you were a child and playing with your toys, and how your toys come to life for you. And this is very much what this book is about. It's about the magical time of being a child and believing in your toys, and I would kind of describe this as the Night Circus meets Toy Story, and I loved it. I really, really loved it. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I should also say this obviously follows through World War I as well, so we are seeing a little bit of mental health struggles in it as well, like PTSD and stuff, which I thought was really, really well portrayed, and so that was obviously really important as well. But overall, I just adored this book, and I cannot recommend it enough for people. It's not like a very, very fast-paced book. It's more of a slow read. I would say don't go into it if you're looking for action-packed adventure. This is not what this is. It's a very slow kind of book that just envelops you. The toy shop just becomes real and envelops you, and you are there, and it's just one of those things that you wouldn't care what happens in the story as long as it's in the toy shop. Just so wonderful that you would stay there forever, and I certainly wanted to stay there forever, and I wanted to just keep finding out about the magical toys and the different creations they would come up with every year. And yeah, I loved it. 4.5 out of 5 stars. And after that one, I read the book that took up most of my week because it was a very long book, and that was Here Be Dragons by Sharon Penman, and this is a historical fiction based around King John of England and Prince Llewellyn of Wales, who's also known as Llewellyn the Great, I think, of Wales. And it's about Llewellyn's marriage to Joanna, who is the bastard daughter of King John, and kind of the relationship between Llewellyn and John, and then also the relationship between John and Joanna, and you're kind of following basically their whole lives. And this is like 800 pages, so it was a very pretty long book. As you can see, the writing in it is quite small, but it did follow a lot. As I said, it did follow a whole lot. I very much preferred the chapters of Joanna's. I didn't much care for the chapters, King John's chapters, and there was a good bit of chunk in this, like the start of it, that before Joanna was even in it, because Joanna was a lot younger than Llewellyn when they married. She was like 14 and he was in his 30s, which is like, obviously, you know, now it's really horrible to think about, but back then it was normal. So yeah, so we don't meet Joanna for quite a while in the book, but then once we do, I just really, really enjoyed that. When I read historical fiction, I always prefer to read historical fiction based on a woman at the time, whether it was like a particular hero's wife or a queen or a princess or something like that, because I just feel like those are the voices that aren't really told that much in history books. So I do like to see, even if it's historical fiction, I do like to see those sides of the tale being told, so I much prefer Joanna's chapters. I did like Llewellyn's as well, but Joanna's were definitely my favourite. Didn't care so much for John's. I didn't think some of his were needed that much. Like some of the chapters were really info dumpy, and I didn't really need it that much. Just I did really like the way it explored kind of the father-daughter relationship, and then also a relationship between a woman and her husband, and then how those two loves are so different from each other, but they're both the big loves of a woman's life, apart from her children, obviously. Those kind of relationship, whether it's a relationship with your significant other, a relationship with your parent, and sometimes they can kind of sometimes they can be bad for each other, if you know what I mean, and sometimes you can be torn between these two people who are very much the main people in your life, and I just love the way Joanna's struggle in this was shown and how she handled it, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. The only thing is I'm not sure if I'll go on. There's 2 more books in this series, but I'm not sure if I'll read it because I think the second book focuses on another a lord, and again, as I said, I mostly prefer reading my historical fiction when it is from a woman's point of view. So I don't know, I wouldn't be rushing to pick it up. I might pick it up if I happen to come across it in the library, but I wouldn't be seeking it out, if you know what I mean. So when I was almost finished with Here Be Dragons, I decided to take a little bit of a break and read a novella that I had on my Kindle. That was The Sleeping Sickness by A.R. Hellbender, and this is actually Roya from Unicorn Hunter Books on BookTube, and I will link her below. So this is just a little novella that she wrote recently. I think it was the short story, and then she just made it a little bit longer for a novella. It's only about 60 pages, and it is kind of like a steampunk Sleeping Beauty retelling. It does focus on Melina, who is like a genius engineer, and she has created some amazing things like mechanical crows and mechanical dragons and stuff like that, and she ends up kind of becoming threatened and is made to poison the princess of the kingdom, who's obviously Princess Aurora that we know from Sleeping Beauty, and then she is basically trying to figure out how she can reverse this kind of curse that she's put on this princess and try and make everything better. And I just really liked how this was told. I just really liked the steampunk spin that was put on it. I just thought it was really clever, and I really liked the fact that Melina was not a villain. She wasn't the Maleficent villain that we all know of. I loved I just loved the twist that this gave on it, and as I said, it was just something that I really needed, just that little bit of a fairy retelling boost that I needed, and I would definitely recommend it for people who are looking for something short and sweet to read, and something that is a little bit unique as well, and interesting. So yeah, I give it 4 out of 5 stars, and I really enjoyed it. The last book that I have this week, I have not actually finished by the time I am filming this, but I literally only have like 110 pages left of it, and that is New York 2140 by, what's his name, Kim Stanley Robinson, and I am struggling a little bit this one. Like, I'm literally only I only have this much left, which is about 110 pages, so I will definitely get this finished tonight, and if not, I'll only be like a few pages from the end. This is basically set in the year 2140, and it's where there have been these massive floods because all the Arctic ice has melted, and like the polar caps have melted and the sea levels have risen, so New York is basically flooded, and people live in these massive skyscrapers, and they get across by sky bridges and by boats and canals and stuff like that, and it's just the way of life now in New York and in other cities and countries across the world. And this, we're following like a whole bunch of different characters who all seem to be living in this one building. It seems to be this weird conspiracy happening where someone's trying to buy the building, and at the same time the building, like, it seems like people are trying to purposely damage the building as well, and this seems to be this weird kind of thing going on, and a lot of the characters trying to figure out what is happening. And then you also have the 2 little boys who are basically trying to find buried treasure under the sea. Yeah, there's parts of this that I like, and there's part of it that I don't. The thing I like are the characters. I love the characters, most of the characters anyway. I love Vlad, or Vlade, I'm not really sure how you're supposed to say his name, who was like the handyman of the building. I really love him. I love the 2 little boys, Stefan and Roberto. They are great. To be honest, I really love the majority of the POVs, except there's this one called Citizen, and I'm not sure who it's supposed to be. I don't know if it's like New York is speaking, like New York almost becomes its own character, if you know what I mean in this. And a lot of the first few chapters of this person called Citizen was just like a history of New York and stuff like that, and I just like didn't care. Like there's so much stuff in this about like the different streets in New York, what happened in all these different areas of New York with the flooding, and I don't know New York. I've never been to New York. I don't have big ambitions to go to New York, so I didn't care about any of that. Like it didn't mean anything to me, and it was really, really boring for me. So that really kind of just like completely like evaporated my interest when I was reading those bits. I would just zone out and wait until I'd get to like the next chapter with characters I actually liked. Again, a lot of the stuff with the like the markets and stuff, again, I just go over my head. I don't really understand them that well, but again, I do love the characters. I love the relationships between them. I love the fact that they've all kind of adopted the two little boys and are taking care of them. Even if they don't really want to take care of them, they still end up doing it and have like a bit of affection for them. And yeah, I really, really like that. So like this isn't going to be, unless something amazing happens in the last 100 pages, this is going to be just an average 3-star for me. I like the idea, I like the characters, but just some of it just doesn't work for me that well. I still do love the cover though, and I will say the cover artist for this, who is Stephen Martinieri, got this absolutely spot on. Like everything that is in this cover is basically how the city is described, like from the sky bridges and stuff that you can see like across the buildings. You can see all the sky bridges there, and the way there's like the taller ones back here where the shorter buildings here, like that is all described in the book. So they got that spot on, which I love. So yeah, 3 out of 5 stars. Nothing spectacular. I'm glad I read it because I had been wondering about this book for a while, but yeah. And the book I'm currently reading at the moment is Bygone Badass Broad by Mackenzie Lee, and this one is absolutely great. I'm only literally a few pages into this. I think I'll just read a couple of pages like for the next few days, and I'll talk more about it next week. But as I said, this is just a diverse range of women from like history and just the cool things that they did, and I just love learning about all these women. So yeah, I'll talk a bit more about this next week, but so far this is really, really good. I really like it. So that's everything I have read and everything I'm currently reading. So please let me know what you guys think. I will see you guys again next time, and thank you for watching. Bye!